This week on World Traveler Cooking, Thanksgiving turkey, an American tradition. Now, I'm not going to cover stuffing in this video, leaving that to others to research, but we'll talk a little bit about it. I have here a previously frozen turkey that I've thawed out in my refrigerator, and we're going to cook it without stuffing. I'd recommend starting that way and then moving forward later. Now, in the United States, there are two big holidays where people eat turkey. The first one is Thanksgiving, and the other one is Christmas. So, Thanksgiving is the third Thursday in November, and people get together with their families, eat a lot of food. It's basically a harvest festival. I think it's earlier in Canada. I don't think they eat the same things as they do in the U.S. But sort of the typical Thanksgiving fare is turkey, mashed potatoes, gravy, apple pie would be sort of like the traditional main constants in an American Thanksgiving dinner. So, what I'm going to cover today is I'm going to cover the turkey and the gravy. I'm not going to, I probably won't do much of a stuffing, if any at all. The problem with stuffings is they change the cooking characteristic of the turkey. And so typically if you're going to stuff the bird, you need to figure it's going to take a bit longer to cook. A lot of people also then take the stuffing out and further cook it to make sure that food safety is not a problem. I have never heard of major food poisoning outbreaks from turkey, but given the similarities to chicken, I wouldn't be surprised, at least in the United States, if that's a problem. That's a problem. So the standard cooking instructions in Fahrenheit are that you want to get the internals to the meat consistently to 165 Fahrenheit or higher. I'll put a conversion of that in the description, so don't worry. But that's significantly higher than you'd want for, say, beef or something like that. The second thing to note is that if you're cooking a frozen turkey, the turkey breast will be a lot drier than it is if you get a fresh turkey and it's never been frozen. So for that reason, basting's kind of really helpful, but you also need to understand it's not going to be the same. So for ingredients, we have salt, of course. We have the turkey, of course. We have a lemon that we're going to use to freshen up the turkey. And then if we decide not to do a stuffing, then we'll just put a lemon and an apple inside the cavity, and that will help keep it moist. A second option is I might cut up the apple, mix it with some chopped up bread, add some salt, squeeze lemon juice on top, and stuff that. Very simple dressing. People usually put pork sausage and other things in it, but I'm not going to even think about doing that today. Partly because some of the people at work that I hope will eat this don't eat pork, and so I want to keep it separate. For another kind of dressing that I've done in the past, when I haven't had access to good bread, I've taken day-old rice, mixed it with cashews, lemon juice, apples, and like some various seasonings to provide much lighter stuffing. I actually prefer lighter stuffing. I think a lot of Americans tend to put too much salt in their stuffing and make it too heavy. So that's me. Yeah, I think I'll do a stuffing today. So we're going to do stuffing, turkey, gravy. So let's go ahead and get started. So here I've just opened up the wrapper, and very oftentimes what they'll do is they will take the skin here and fold the drumsticks into it. And while that's very helpful for packing, we're going to put them back there. It's not very helpful right now because we got to take the back of the giblets out. Now, if you ever get to do this, you're going to ruin the turkey because very often, well, unfortunately these are. This one's paper, but sometimes you'll find them with plastic, and trust me, you really don't want plastic melting inside your turkey. So get the giblets out, then we're going to put them in a pan with some water or chicken broth. Chicken broth is better. I have some leftover mushroom broth, so I'm going to just dump that in. And basically we will start a broth for basting and for the and later for the gravy. Now I'm going to freshen the bird in a moment, but to make it more manageable, I'm also going to cut these wingtips off. The reason to cut the wingtips off is that they don't really have any significant meat on them, but they have a lot of hard protein, and so they'll contribute to the broth, but it's not really like you'd want to sit there and gnaw on them. Well, some people might, but... There we go. So next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in the sink and I'm going to wash it out with water, inside and outside. And then I'm going to take one of the lemons that I will have cut in half, and I will I'll rub the lemon on the outside and the inside. So of course you always want to start with a clean sink. But what we're going to do here is we're going to take the turkey, and we're going to set it in a sink. And then we're going to wash the outside and inside of the turkey. Front and back. And if you don't do this, sometimes it will just get kind of musty in flavor. Especially if you're dealing with something that's been and then let's go ahead and we're going to take the lemon here, and I'm just going to rub it over the outside and around the inside. And I'm going to squeeze it while I do this. Do the same with the back. Sorry. And the lemon is going to freshen up the flavor again. Again, it will kind of prevent like a musty flavor in the turkey. So there we go. So back on the pan after making sure it's well drained. So for the stuffing, I have a tendency of improvising. So I'm just taking 2 slices of bread here, and this is a fairly good whole grain. Oh, there goes my oven. I have preheated to 425 Fahrenheit, about 220 Celsius, and I'm preheating, of course, in Celsius today because I am in Europe. But anyway, I'm going to take about 2 slices of this bread. I'm just going to cut it into cubes. I'm going to throw it in a bowl, and then I'm going to add some other pieces to it. Now, Traditionally, people add a number of things. They will add some fruit, usually some pork sausage. Again, I'm not doing that today. Then I'm going to add some apples. I think the other apple that I had is probably a little big, so I'm going to use this apple instead. And basically, I'm just going to cut the apple into small pieces, and I will mix it in. And once I'm done with the apple, I will add lemon juice from my other half of the lemon, and from there we will probably add some dried fruit, some nuts. Those are all good. I actually really like nuts in it, and I like I think dried fruit add a nice dimension also. Now, one thing to note is that as this cooks, the apples themselves will tend to disintegrate and become kind of like applesauce. The bread will absorb some of that. Bread will also absorb some of the turkey juice. But so will the dried fruit. So, starting with some nuts, I have some almonds. Those will work. I'm just going to take a handful of almonds, throw them on top. And some dried cranberries. Don't have a whole lot of those, but I think they'll be really good. So I'm just going to grab them and throw them on top. But here we go. And if there is a seed in there, it's not the end of the world. But the seeds can be a little bitter, so I like to get them out. So then from here, if I see any seeds, I will pull them out. There's the seed I was looking for. And I think that should be most of it. There's one right there. And I'm just going to stir this up, keeping an eye out for seeds. But this will be the turkey stuffing. Very simple, very light turkey stuffing. This should be a side dish, not an entree, which basically means don't like fill it full of tons of like meat and stuff, which some people do. Alright, so then this will get stuffed into the turkey, right back into the same body cavity where the giblets came out of. So this will just get stuffed right back into the same body cavity that the giblets came out of. So we can just go ahead and look at that process. And we're just basically going to stuff it all in. Some people add salt. I don't. I figure you can. The problem with adding salt is some of it tends to bleed through into the turkey, and since we're going to salt the broth that we base the turkey with, it's very easy to get a turkey and a stuffing that's too salty. So my recommendation on this is this is one of the few cases where salting later makes more sense. Okay, now that this is done, then we fold this back in. If your turkey didn't come set up like this, then what you can do is tie them with like some kitchen yarn or something. And here we have our turkey ready to bake. Well, the turkey is now in the oven. I've turned it down to like about 180. The reason Celsius, that's about 375 or so Fahrenheit. And I've added my mushroom broth because that's what I had. I don't have any good quality chicken broth here. I'd prefer to use that, so I added some water and a little bit of instant chicken broth. Reason for the instant chicken broth is it adds salt, and it adds more flavor than you would get just by adding salt. So now we're going to bring this to a boil, and then we're going to turn it down and let it simmer very slowly while our turkey starts to bake. Now, what we're going to do next is we're going to cover the turkey after a little bit, and we'll start to baste it with this sauce. Okay, so we'll keep adding some water and stuff to here, and then we'll just kind of like keep the turkey sort of made moist, especially the turkey breast with this. So now this has been in for about an hour. I'm going to take a paper towel. I prefer to use cloth, but a paper towel will work. And I'm going to set this just over the top. You can think of it like sort of a way to protect the bird from the scorching heat of the oven. And basically this will act as a shield. And then I'm going to take some of the broth here. I'm just going to drizzle it over the top. And I will open this up maybe once every while and do this. One thing you have to worry about a little bit is that this can stick to the turkey skin a little bit, so I do prefer to use a cloth, but you can use a paper towel if you need to. Another trick you could use would be a couple of small pieces of baking paper as spacers underneath. But I'm going to do that just to make sure. So, just like, you know, the point here is to make it so that the turkey steams a bit. Some people even just simply cover it in aluminum foil. But if we just take this and we just, you know, do that, hold this a bit, do this, and then this wet paper towel on top, then it's less likely to stick. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back in. Be back periodically to baste it, and we'll see how this goes. And just one note for everybody's benefit here. I had gotten called away while I was starting this broth, and it did burn a bit, so I came back and basically I took everything out. You can see a little bit of charring here, but I took everything out that was not too badly burned, put it in a new pot, added some more broth, and away we're going. So the thing is that since the gravy is going to include drippings that are probably burning onto the bottom of the roasting pan, if you burn the broth here a little bit, it's not going to be the end of the world. So now it's been just about 3 hours. The meat thermometer is showing just a little high, so I'm hoping this is not too dry. Does mean it did get just a little overcooked, but it should be fine. It looks beautiful. So I'm going to focus on making the gravy while we let this rest, and then we will go from there. So the first thing you'll note is that normally you'll find a lot of fat here, but there's actually not that much fat. This is mostly broth, and so I'm just going to turn this directly into a gravy. So I'm going to pour it into my pot, and then I'm going to cut up my giblets, boil it, and add some flour and water. So in the event where you have like a really dried on set of pan drippings, you'd probably just want to use water, but since I didn't have that this time, I am going to basically take some broth out of here, and I'm going to whisk in flour. That should be plenty. And then I will strain it. Sorry. Here, just to make sure I don't have lumps. And now that the broth is boiling, I will whisk in this flour mixture. Boil to thicken, and then repeat if necessary. Then I'm going to, I'm a little nervous about how much water came out of this. I think it may be dry. But then we will go ahead and go from there. And now for the taste test. I'm not going to do plating on this one because, well, normally, you know, you carve up the turkey, put it out. The meat looks a little dry. I had trouble getting back to it in time, so watch your time, watch your temperature. But I think the gravy should even it out, so we'll try it with the gravy. The turkey breast actually isn't that dry, much less dry than I expected. And the gravy really does even it out a lot, so that's nice. The dark meat is also very nice in this case, even though, as I say, it's just a little overdone. The thing is that American roasted turkey recipes are optimized for the gravy. And so you don't want to sacrifice anything for the gravy. And gravy will cover up minor mistakes that you make with the meat. Onto the stuffing. Interesting thing about the stuffing is I can taste all of the ingredients very clearly, but they've now merged together. And so it's tart from the cranberries and the apples. I can taste the bread. The almonds are in there. So, you know, as I say, with the dressing, you can pretty much wing it, throw in what you like, but try to use good quality ingredients because you'll taste them at the end. On the whole, one thing I'd say is watch the temperature a little bit, but this came out really nicely. So if you find this content interesting, I hope I've earned a like and a subscription from you, and please feel free to comment any other tips that you have in terms of cooking this dish in the comments below. I always find that helps add value to this kind of dish and this kind of channel. At any rate, recipes in the description. Bon appetit, and see you next week.